Tonight, the new video of the daring Israeli rescue operation in Gaza.
A miracle happened to us.
What it took to bring home 4 hostages from Hamas captivity and why the mission almost fell apart. Plus, with Palestinian civilians killed in the raid, could the United States push for a ceasefire be in jeopardy? America's top diplomat is in the Middle East tonight. The CBS Evening News starts now. International pressure builds on Hamas to accept the ceasefire and hostage proposal laid out by President Biden. Tonight, the terror group says it's ready to negotiate. Good evening, I'm Nora O'Donnell, and thank you for being with us. We want to begin with a new diplomatic push to stop the Israel-Hamas war and renewed hope that more hostages could be released. The UN Security Council just approved the latest plan, and America's top diplomat, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, is back in the Middle East, trying to close the deal tonight. This comes as we're getting dramatic new video of the daring raid that freed 4 Israeli hostages over the weekend, which came at a staggering cost for Palestinian civilians. CBS's Chris Livesay leads us off from Tel Aviv.
New footage shows the moment Israeli commandos storm the apartment building holding the 3 male hostages. They call out their names. "We came here to rescue you," they respond, before the crack of gunfire to cover their harrowing escape. It was a rescue operation of the highest stakes, and it nearly failed. Weeks of rehearsing on mock-ups had prepared these elite forces to move in broad daylight, says Doran Avital, a former special ops commander.
You go under cover, the cars, the dress, whatever it required.
At the same time those men were being freed in one building, Noah Argamani was being rescued 200 yards away in another. They were codenamed Diamonds. A message was relayed over the radio. "We have the diamonds in our hands."
And once you have the hostages, you kill the guard, then you have to step out very fast.
A heavy gunfight erupted. Then disaster. One of the getaway vehicles broke down. The ensuing battle was fierce. The Hamas-run health ministry says nearly 300 were killed. Israel disputes that number. Our CBS News team in Gaza was at the hospital as the injured arrived. The plane was bombing at random, said this eyewitness. The streets are filled with bodies. Eventually, with the help of hundreds of Israeli troops nearby and U.S. intelligence, all 4 hostages made it to the beach, taking their first steps of freedom in 245 days as they boarded helicopters to safety. Once home, celebration that's been both public and, of course, personal. Reuniting with family they feared were gone forever. Almog Mer told his friends he learned Arabic in captivity. His mother, Orit, recalls the moment she got the news he was safe.
She said, he's alive and he's okay. And I started to scream. A miracle happened to us.
120 hostages still remain in Gaza, some already declared dead. But CBS News has learned that the U.S. and Qatar have recently discussed the possible release of the 5 remaining living American hostages in a deal directly with Hamas. Nora?
Some hopeful signs. Chris Livesay, thank you. Now to some breaking news. Details just coming in about an attack on 4 American teachers in China. They were stabbed in a public park. All 4 are believed to work at a college in Iowa. CBS's Nicole Skenga on what we've learned.
Video on social media appears to show at least 3 instructors laying on the ground. One soaked in blood, another bracing his back, all of them frantically making calls or texting on their cell phones. The stabbing reportedly took place on Monday, a state holiday. The Cornell College staffers were making a daytime visit to a public park in Jilin City, China. In a statement, the Iowa-based school said instructors were traveling overseas as part of a teaching partnership with a Chinese university when all were injured in a serious incident. No college students were involved in the program. The State Department tonight said they're monitoring the situation. Iowa Congresswoman Mariannette Miller-Meeks said her office is working with the U.S. Embassy to ensure victims receive care for their injuries and depart China safely, Nora.
Scary story. Nicole Skanga, thank you so much. Tonight, Miami firefighters are still on the scene of a massive 3-alarm fire at an apartment complex after it went up in flames this morning. CBS's Peter Dench is at the scene.
Huge flames and thick black smoke shot up from the rooftop of this 4-story Miami apartment building early this morning. As dozens of firefighters battle this blaze for hours, Joel Enrique and his family walked down 4 flights of stairs to escape the fire.
First time I've ever been in a fire, so my eyes were burning, my nose was burning.
We also have a patient that's been shot in the torso.
Officials say a building employee with a gunshot wound was found in the building and taken to the hospital. Miami Mayor Francis Suarez says that shooter started the fire after shooting the employee. Miami police arrested the suspect.
Unfortunately, we're not able to speak to that male at this time to get further information because it does appear that he's in critical condition.
Firefighters went floor by floor searching for survivors, rescuing more than 40 people, some from their balconies. 3 firefighters were also taken to the hospital, suffering from heat exhaustion.
This is a 3-alarm fire. We haven't had one in 25 years. And so this is something that is obviously a large event for us, and they're doing a heroic job in dealing with it.
Quite a fire. Peter Dench, thank you so much. New developments tonight in the federal gun trial of Hunter Biden. After just an hour of deliberating, the jury went home for the night, and they will be back in court tomorrow to decide the fate of President Biden's only surviving son. The 54-year-old is accused of lying about his drug use on a federal form when buying a gun in 2018. His lawyers argue that Hunter was in recovery and not using drugs at the time. CBS's Scott McFarland is at the courthouse in Wilmington.
Will you testify?
With his freedom on the line, President Biden's son Hunter chose not to take the stand in his own defense and instead watched as the jury got the case late today. As the First Lady, the president's sister, brother, and Hunter Biden's wife all sat in the front row, prosecutor Leo Wise urged the jury to ignore their presence and the media's circus around the trial. People sitting in the gallery are not evidence, he said, adding jurors should use their common sense and find Biden guilty of illegally possessing a gun while being a drug user. It capped a trial in which prosecutors showed images of Biden with a crack pipe, photos of crack he allegedly purchased, plus video of his brother's widow, Hallie Biden, throwing the gun away in a dumpster after claiming she found it in Hunter's truck near drug residue. This during a time in which she said she and Hunter were in a romantic relationship and had both been using drugs. Abby Lowell argued his client was not using or addicted when he allegedly lied on this federal background check form in October 2018.
The argument that the defense made basically boils down to, well, if he didn't actually have a crack pipe in one hand at the time he was filling out the form with the other hand, then he's innocent. He actually had to be using drugs at the moment he filled out the form. I don't think the jury's going to interpret the law that way.
Lowell said nearly a dozen times the prosecution's case was based on conjecture and suspicion and that the outcome would change Hunter's life. President Biden's daughter, Ashley, could be seen crying in the courtroom. Lowell said Hunter Biden acknowledges buying the gun and having once been an addict, but might have considered himself in recovery and no longer a drug user when he got the firearm. But prosecutors singled out 2 text messages showing one day after Hunter Biden purchased the gun, he sent a message saying he was meeting a dealer named Mookie. And one day after that, a text message saying he was sleeping on a car, smoking crack. The jury deliberated about an hour before the judge sent them home to resume their work tomorrow, deciding a case that could result in the president's son going to prison. Nora?
People watching it very closely. Scott McFarland, thank you so much. Today, Donald Trump met with a probation officer after being convicted of 34 felony charges in New York. In a month, he will face sentencing. CBS's Robert Costa joins us now. And Robert, this was something we've never seen before.
We have not. Good evening, Nora. Former President Trump spent the day at Mar-a-Lago, his home in Florida, but he did participate in a probation interview with his lawyer, Todd Blanche, at his side. The session lasted under half an hour, and Trump answered questions about his personal background, criminal record, and employment history. Officials will now prepare a report for New York Judge Juan Merchan that includes a sentencing recommendation. Meanwhile, new CBS News polling shows a majority of likely voters feel that Trump's conviction not a major factor in November's election. The top issues being the economy and inflation, where Trump has an edge. And you can tell in the coming days, sources tell CBS News, that both Trump and President Biden will be making pitches to workers and labor unions as they try to court that key demographic group in the coming weeks. Nora.
Robert Costa, thank you so much. Both coasts are bracing for potentially dangerous weather. Miami and Southwest Florida could face extreme flooding this week, with some areas getting as much as 1.5 feet of rain by the weekend. And then out west, the heat dome will intensify again this week and head east. Record highs are expected by Friday, with temperatures in the upper 90s possible from Richmond to Philadelphia. Now, a look at tonight's other top stories. Beaches on part of the Florida Panhandle are now open after 3 swimmers were attacked by sharks on Friday. CBS's Manny Bojorquez is at Panama City Beach with what officials are doing to keep people safe.
Nora, people are back on these beaches today, but authorities are patrolling. The warning flags are up, and swimmers are urged to be vigilant after the string of attacks. They happened on Friday in Walton County. First, a 45-year-old woman was bitten. Doctors had to amputate part of her arm. About 2 hours later, and only 4 miles away, 2 teenagers were bitten, including a girl who lost a hand in the attack and may need to have part of her leg amputated. Doctors happened to be on the beach that day and helped her.
Amazing that it was just kind of God's will that everybody was there to help at the same time.
While shark bites are still considered to be rare, experts say rebounding populations of sharks that were once endangered could be at play here.
Now to this massive landslide on a critical mountain highway that connects Wyoming and Idaho. The road to Jackson Hole catastrophically failed after part of it cracked. CBS's Elise Preston now on the economic impact.
The road collapse severed the link between Jackson, Wyoming and eastern Idaho ahead of one of the busiest tourist seasons in the area, Nora. Images of the gaping hole where the familiar Wyoming Highway 22 used to be have left the mountain communities who rely on it in shock. All that remains of the scenic route through the Teton Pass is roughly an 80-foot drop that plummets into the valley below. Authorities say the road was closed during the time of the collapse and no one was injured. It's unclear when it will reopen.
And tonight, a major announcement from Apple involving artificial intelligence. CBS's Carter Evans has more on the big reveal.
The tech giant is joining forces with ChatGPT. They're calling it Apple Intelligence. And Nora, this is supposed to be AI that knows what you want even before you do. Siri's about to get very personal.
This is AI for the rest of us.
Apple Intelligence will gather personal data from your devices to automatically perform tasks like determining if you could still make it to your child's recital when a meeting's rescheduled. The company claims it's completely secure because much of the processing will be done on the device. Complex AI computing will go to secure servers.
Siri will find and understand things it never could before without compromising your privacy.
I don't need AI to thank all of our CBS News teams across the country for those reports. Thank you. Rodeo fans couldn't believe what they were seeing when a bull hopped a fence and took off running. That's next. And then later, our Eye in America, meet the Roller Rebels, a team whose players say they're fighting for justice. Newly released video shows the moment a Florida law enforcement sniper shot and killed a suspect during a bank robbery. A warning, the video is graphic. This happened in February in South Fort Myers. The suspect claimed he had a bomb and held 2 hostages at knife point, one on either side of him. A sniper from the Lee County Sheriff's Office fired once, his bullet passing through a computer monitor. You can see the hole in the screen. As a SWAT team moved in, the hostages were not hurt. Moving on to Oregon, in a dangerous situation thanks to a raging bull. A rodeo was just wrapping up Saturday night when the bull went rogue, hopping a 6-foot fence, then running through a concession area. Multiple people were injured. 4 were treated at a hospital. The bull, named Party Bus, was eventually recaptured and returned to its pen. A roller derby team is at the center of a battle over the rights of female transgender athletes. Eye on America is next.
All right. Let's go.
In New York State, a fight over transgender rights is unfolding on Long Island. Nassau County lawmakers will soon vote whether to ban female transgender athletes from playing in and on county-owned facilities. As Jerika Duncan reports in tonight's Eye on America, the next battle, recreational sports.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. The Long Island Roller Rebels, a flat track roller derby team, are taught to skate fast, get low, and hit hard. But in recent months, they've taken a hit they weren't expecting because some of the members on this team are transgender women.
Trans women are women. We should just continue to categorize them as women.
33-year-old Amanda Urena is the president of the Long Island-based rec group. In February, the team's future took a major turn when Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman signed an order denying permits to women's or girls' sporting events with transgender participants. And this is not about the use of bathrooms. This is about the use of the county's more than 100 public facilities like basketball courts, parks, even pools that would be off limits to transgender women playing a sport on a team advertised as one for women and girls.
What prompted you to take this action?
We started hearing from a lot of girls and a lot of women that they thought it was very unfair and very unsafe.
If the people within that organization don't see a problem with it, why do you?
I don't. Just don't say you're all girl and all female and then have biological males competing.
Back in March, the American Civil Liberties Union of New York filed a lawsuit challenging the ban. Last month, a judge ruled the county executive, quote, acted beyond the scope of his authority. Gabriela Larios is an attorney for the ACLU of New York.
In 2019, New York amended its human rights law and its civil rights law to explicitly prohibit discrimination against transgender people. We are confident that under our state anti-discrimination laws, whatever version of this passes will be struck down.
Nearly 150 anti-LGBTQ bills are under consideration in the United States. Of those, 21 target transgender athletes. Since Blakeman's executive order, 4 other states have come closer to passing bills targeting that group.
I think it's about protecting people's rights to be able to participate in the activities that have been paid for by their communities through taxes. We fully believe we are standing in the right place in history and that we are standing up for Nassau County, we're standing up for people's rights.
For people who say, as a transgender woman, my rights are not being protected, what do you say to them?
What about the rights of women? Compete in a co-ed league, form a transgender league. We're not anti-transgender. We are pro-women.
For now, the rebels are beating the opposition by renting practice space in private facilities, but they haven't given up on what they see as a fight for justice. For them, where there's a will, there's a way to keep rolling. For Eye on America, Jerika Duncan, Mineola, New York.
Now to this story, a lost little girl is reunited with her mom thanks to a quick-thinking deputy. That's tonight's Heart of America, and it's next.
If you can't watch the CBS Evening News, you can listen. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Finally, tonight's Heart of America. When a little girl went missing on a Florida beach, a Pinellas County Sheriff's deputy stepped up to reunite the lost girl with her anguished mother.
I'm Jeff. Are you okay? You need a hug? Yeah. All right. It's going to be okay.
Well, that's Deputy Jeff Moore offering a hug to the child after she wandered away from her mother. Moore searched the beach using a recent photo of the girl and a description of her bathing suit provided by her mother. After about 10 minutes, he spotted her, and to the applause of the crowd, listen, he reunited the girl to her grateful mom.
This is a win, and this is definitely something that I will remember probably for the rest of my life.
To see her face and be able to just, hold her was complete and utter joy to know that she was safe, she was back, and, our family was going to be okay.
That's Deputy Jeff Moore, and he's tonight's Heart of America. We are grateful to our law enforcement for many things. And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. I'm Norah O'Donnell. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Good night.